Good day, everyone. Today is May the 22nd, 2025. It is 12:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is the second time I've tried to make this video entry because the first time I made it, I had like 3 audio inputs coming in simultaneously and the audio just got all garbled. So this is this is probably like take 3. But yes, it is May the 22nd, 2025. It is 12:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, I want this entry, we're going to cover a few topics. We're going to talk about style drifting, scope creep or feature creep. We're going to talk about cognitive dissonance. We're going to talk about return profiles. And the image you have right here on your screen at the moment, what you see most days, not every day, but most days, you see like right after 3 p.m. sometimes we like to have a review of the portfolio, right, and a review of positions. Sometimes we make changes here. Lately it's been very light, and it's been light for a while now. So it's like, what's going on? And especially some of you guys, I know some of you guys were with what I did in the mentoring space, years and years and years ago, right? 2011, 2012, 2013. It's like, man, it seemed like Dan was always just buying this one, selling it off, buying this one, selling it off, shorting this one, put an option position over here. And lately it seems very, very, very light. So what's up with that? What is up with that? Well, I work very hard. I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it, but I work very hard at style drifting. So what is style drifting? It's basically where you sort of deviate from an original plan. And it's a very human tendency to deviate from an original plan. Sometimes it's referred to by a number of names. There's some cognitive dissonance. Not cognitive dissonance, excuse me. There's some cognitive biases that sort of work its way into that. There's an excellent book that I always recommend, The Logic of Failure, that has to do with the standardization of deviations. And it's how humans will logically arrive at a place of catastrophic failure. Well, why? Because they standardize their deviations. The most famous example of that was the space shuttle, right? The Space Shuttle Challenger. When I was a young person, the catastrophe there, right? And what did they do? We've launched in this particular environment, and so we're good to go, and this is our parameters, and this is exactly how we launch. And then the next time it's like, the weather's clear, everything looks great, that one parameter with the temperature, but you know what, we're going to launch anyways. We made the discretionary decision to launch anyways. And then you standardize that deviation. Right? So then it's like, well, we launched, and it was a couple of degrees off the parameter there. We were fine. The weather's fine today. It's even a little bit cooler. Go ahead and launch. Now you've standardized your deviation even further. And before you know it, they were in a place where the O-rings had rotted. They had froze. There was icicles hanging off of things. And they had standardized that deviation parameter so much, or the standardization of deviations. They had scope, I would say style drifted more than anything else. And then they ran into a catastrophe. Right? Very, very human, very, very intelligent people do that. Very intelligent people. So, I want to talk about that because I'm not perfect, but I try not to style drift. Okay? So, let's talk about, we're going to blend in a few different concepts here. We're going to talk about return profiles. Okay? You can generally have what's referred to as a linear return profile, or you can have an absolute return profile. And everybody thinks it's like, well, can I have the features of both? It's like, no, you can't. All right, sorry, but you can't. We're going to show you some examples of that here. And with auditable returns, right? We're going to go to real world examples and show you, hey, this is this firm that's been running since the 1970s. Look at their return profile, and then we're going to look at some other return profiles that are in databases. You can audit this stuff, right? A lot of newer retail traders don't look through those databases, and I think they really, really need to. But we're gonna show an example. I always say study those things, and people don't, I think, take me up on that. But we're going to go through and use it as an example, okay? Now we're going to start off with a tweet I made some time ago. Here. And many of you know I train jiu-jitsu now, and my jiu-jitsu professor, or the head instructor of the school, depending on how you count it, 10 to 13 time world champion. I mean, it depends on how you count it, and are we counting, at the lower belt? It depends on a lot of things, but let's even just call it 10. When he was introduced to me, it was basically said, listen, there are black belts in the sport. There are ridiculously talented people in the sport. There are people that have incredible talent and they stick with it and they make a good name for themselves. And then there are guys in a completely different category. That's him, right? And it's funny because when he's rolling or you're watching him roll with one of the he makes it look ridiculously easy, like I said, to the uninitiated, right? If you just walked in off the street, you'd be like, well, I could do that. I could go with this guy. And you have I think everybody should do it once. Even if you're not going to train, I think you need to grapple at least once with somebody with skill. You have zero concept of how much you're going to be folded up like a piece of laundry. You need to understand. It's a very humbling experience, just how helpless you are. But it looks ridiculously easy from the outside, right, to the uninitiated. It actually takes training to, first of all, roll with somebody like that, and you're going to realize, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And when you actually then train, you realize I'm not catching up to him, and I'm never going to catch up to him. And in my lifetime, I just don't have enough years on this planet. I'll never, even if I did, I'd never catch up to him. It's like otherworldly Jedi. It's not even being a Jedi Knight. It's like being like Yoda, right? That's true in many fields. I'm going to show you somebody else had mentioned something similar. Sort of sticks to the sport of jiu-jitsu, but, it's something that a few people are into, right? But it translates into everything, and it translates into trading. This is jiu-jitsu, if you're not sure who Nick is. Remarkable outcomes are usually the result of unremarkable actions chained together with long-term consistency. This is just beautiful. I love this quote. Remarkable outcomes are usually the result of unremarkable actions chained together with long-term consistency. Achieving success or being skilled at something doesn't look sexy until it's attained. I'm going to save that. I'm going to like that. That is beautiful. Remarkable outcomes are usually the result of unremarkable actions chained together with long-term consistency. Achieving success or being skilled at something doesn't look sexy until it's attained. Okay? And if we go back to here, what you see in the weekly position review, right? We go over all of our positions. Even at the beginning of the month, what I've been doing lately is putting in the registers so you can see, dollars and cents signs. It's like this was every move made there. That's how you can see. That's how we arrived at the numbers. Right? So what we're saying there is like right now it doesn't look sexy, right? At all. So like what's going on? Well, I want to talk about those concepts we just discussed. I'm going to come back to this tweet right here. Things you would do on the mats. There are things you would do when you're training jiu-jitsu that you would do on the mats. It's true in any grappling thing, right? Like wrestling or something like that. You wouldn't do in a million years in a street self-defense scenario. You're on the street, somebody grabs you, they try to take you. You're going to do things on the mat you'd never do on the streets. Concrete is hard. It's really, really hard. You're not going to jump to the ground in a reverse de la Hiva in a street self-defense scenario. It's not going to happen. It's going to really hurt if you try to do that. You're going to do something different, right? The same is true in trading. So putting all of these thoughts together, there are small, tiny, little adjustments you can make for efficiency's sake on a return to effort. And this goes to Nick's point. It doesn't look sexy, right? So it doesn't look sexy. There are small, tiny little adjustments you can make for efficiency's sake for return on effort, which is huge with me, that can make an insane change to your returns and improve your returns over a period of time. They are simple, but they are very efficient, as long as you recognize the environment you were in. And that's right here. That's what I'm doing now. We're sitting down to have that entry. So it actually takes, so let's just put these concepts together. Something doesn't look sexy, and you're chaining together a bunch of unremarkable things, right? Or, you're looking at these portfolio reviews or weekly positions, and it's like, man, changes are made, but You know, it's not sexy, right? There's not a lot going on every single day. Okay, well, it's the same thing. Small return on effort, efficient moves can show an incredible amount of skill. And as long as you recognize the environment you're in, right? Just like in a self-defense situation for wrestling, you know, you're not going to do things in a grappling scenario. You're going to do things on the mat you wouldn't do on a street with a curb somewhere, because you're in a different environment. So recognize the environment you're in and then make a change. Make a heuristically dynamic change, as it's been called. That sounds real fancy, doesn't it? I really honestly believe that people in finance like coming up with terminology that sounds very, very advanced. You know what a heuristically dynamic change is? It's a very simple rule of change that you make, basically rule of thumb. It's a very quick, down and dirty way to explain it. You know, doesn't heuristically dynamic portfolio mandate adjustment just sounds so much better, right? Just means you make a change that's already been thought out way ahead of time. You're not style drifting. We're going to talk about that. And depending on what? Depending on the environment you're in. Are you on the mats, or are you next to a concrete curb, right? Depending on the environment you're in. All right, so let's start tying all of this together. To do that, we're going to jump over to that entry that we had earlier. Short-term correction to a long-term problem. I think the recent environment really gives a good case example of how easy it would be to style drift. So let's scroll down a little bit. We scroll down. Let's look at the S&P 500 index, right, from that article that you should have access to as premium.